helpful rather for you, because they would prevent you from putting your finger in the fire. But the hell is the kind of pain that someone would inflict on the innocent child. This is hell. The hell is the unjustified, unnecessary suffering that is caused by the ignorance and malevolence existing in the world. And we know that. And that's why we have this concept. Um, so that is the question we're faced is, what are we going to do with that, right? And you can't start with the insignificant things first. You can't do it. uh, the very term significance signals to us that there are priorities that to be made. They are these things to prioritize before the other. And so you can deal with less, well, necessary, less, what you can deal with less troublesome problems first. You should attend to what causes the biggest problem. And for this reason, I want to present before you this huge concept of hell that is just built up on human experiences. And that's what you also have to recognize. It's real. And if you just don't see it unleashing in your life, and well, you better understand that it exists for the reason, because someone experienced it to be real. And you better, not have it happening in your life too. And it could happen, possibly, if you would do, well, nothing to prevent it from happening. um well, because someone did experience that. And for someone, the uh possibilities did unleash in the way uh to be hell like. And well, you don't want to face this malevolence, you don't want to face this tragedy. The tragedies you already have perhaps are already enough for you, and but if you don't want it to be the case, you have to do something, because well, all of these things are present. Or we would rather just get rid of the term, because they are not, it's not relevant anymore, but it is. And hell, as I mentioned, represents the deepest uh, concerns, the deepest uh, problems which we fear, but perhaps, as I said, for a reason, for a good reason. And this is to be dealt with first and foremost. And we should attend to hell and face hell and uh, search for the ways to resist it first, before we would go to um, attending the less what terrifying uh less terrifying problems. um and for that, we have to identify also what is hell. We know that it's something deep and deeply uh not only frustrating, and not it's not only frustrating, it's terrifying and destructive. These should be identified, faced with, so to be dealt with, because you can't ignore what matters so much. And the most crucial problems, the most destructive problems, they matter more, exactly because of how they influence your life. Um, so you want to face the hell first before you face all the other uh, problems that you can bear. You know, uh, And we do have this big concept for a reason, again, the reason for of flexibility and potential that it allows for. But we still have a work of breaking down this potential to the examples of our personal life. We still have a work to figuring out what is it for us exactly right now, and in the next day, and in the next week, and so on. So we have to figure out our personally experienced hell too, and perhaps also that of our close, no, not perhaps, but that of our close circle too. Um, and for that we have to break down what exactly does it mean for us and that people around us, you know. And again, once identified, it should be addressed and resolved. But in which way? In the way so it would resemble more like heaven, more like the deepest significant things that we do appreciate and treasure so much as to regard sacred, as to hold for as the meaning for life, as the meaning that justifies all experienced sufferings. And it's again no mere pleasure. It's not enough. It's not enough. It's not, because mere pleasure is not sacred. It's not our deepest value. It's not heaven. The heaven is the most treasurable thing, and it's that kind of love that is capable of overcoming the hell for you. That is sacred. Well, that's why we have the story of Christ. That's why we have the stories of people, and that's who um, are noble, and they're noble exactly for that, and that's why we treasure those stories, you know, uh, so much that they live through us and they outlive us. That's how great is their value. That's how greatly shared is their value. Um, I think it's very interesting because let's let's consider the story of Christ, right? So, um, well, the example of Christ is no ordinary example of love because, well, first of all, in which way did he love the people? In which way did he love? It's no romantic or physically tied love, right? Well, then what kind of love is it? Because it's easy to understand love in the physical way because you can see it, you can touch. But what is the love that is not tied to um, a physical closeness? What kind of love is that? And then, well, this is harder to understand. But I mean, it seems to be treasured even more, right? So, well, he didn't love people in any obvious way of saying it. Well, then, in which way did he love? And um, well, obviously, we can say that it's a way for of sacrificing for people his own life. But what does that mean? It's also not obvious. What does it mean that he he loved people so much as to sacrifice his life for them? Okay, and in this ability to sacrifice for people, his love has been shown, right? So, well, what does that mean first? Um, well, I think that first is if he sacrificed himself, then he regarded people as no less important than he is. Well, especially considering that he has not been worthy of the punishment which he took voluntarily anyway. What would that mean? Well, it would mean that though it was not his problem, he valued people so much as to take his this problem on his shoulders. Actually, he valued people so much as to take everyone's problems on his shoulder, and this is no light understanding of love. It's no light understanding of love, because it's the kind of love that bears everything, um, every hardship, even out of love, even if um, so out of its nature, even if it shouldn't have to, it wills to do it because it loves. So that's what Christ does, and he bears the cross, which is a representative of people's problems, their sins. Because this is why we have these problems. We do sin, we do things wrongly, and we have the consequences of it. Uh, and, well, it doesn't matter if you don't want to face the consequences of what you do, because you do have the consequences of what you do. And what the hell would you do with that, right? You have all these negative consequences that you don't want to face with, you don't want to bear. Well, someone should bear it. It's like you are a non-obedient child and you do whatever you want to, and you have all these negative consequences, but you still want your life to be great. Well, so your life would be great if you don't do what is right. Someone should do. And in many cases it is that loving mother that is still cooking you breakfast, so though you're absolutely not worthy of this breakfast, but she's still making it for you because she loves you, and that's kind of love that transcends even your evil nature and any kind of evil, because it's just greater than that, because it's not about you anymore, it's just about its nature now. Well, and it's also about you in a sense of that it recognizes, well, any small thing that could be good in you, though you, well, are not worthy of it by your actions, but it recognizes you more than just your actions, um, which is quite deep. It's quite deep, and it's the deepest sort of love, and it's the that love that we regard sacred, and it's that love that constitutes heaven, right? And you can say that the story of Christ has been heaven already, because, well, I'll tell you why. Because the story of Christ has been heaven on earth already, because the goodness that exists that exist uh, in the presence of evil, and despite of it, is greater goodness that is due to the absence of evil. You know, the greatest goodness is the kind of goodness that has capacity to overcome evil, and not the kind of goodness that is good due to the absence of evil. And that's why the heaven on earth that Christ created by his life and his sacrifice has been a greater heaven that could be in a world with no evil. That's why it's a powerful story, and that's why you will can sufficiently claim that whatever happened there uh, is an example of heaven, right? Of the highest goodness. highest example of goodness, right? And well, we have these small heavens in our lives too when we do these gestures, and they are no less significant. Trust me, because they hold the meaning of life itself for us. Heaven is not that far away. We can see it in small gestures of kindness, in a meal prepared for you by your mother when you behaved poorly, in a friend who sticks to you in the hard moments, though it's not his responsibility, in the moments of strangers who help you out, though it's not their obligation, and who don't only help you out, but who help you out so willingly and kindly that you just appreciate the kindness and love in the world. And well, this is the resemblance of heaven, because it is the resemblance of everything that we consider sacred and actually worthy of living. And that's why we can't forget the story of Christ. And I want to continue on that example because it's very important to us. Now, Christ not only bear his cross willingly and voluntarily, despite being um, what not guilty, but he also took the greatest punishment of that time, as of the punishment of uh, the most horrible uh, criminal, right? So he took on the worst punishment, because someone, again, the punishment is the consequence of committed sin, because you can't take someone's lives and pretend that it didn't happen. No, people will be angry around you. No, someone who got hurt, and the people of that who got hurt because it's a person close to them, will be angry, and they would seek for retribution. They would seek justice, and you can't kill someone and pretend it didn't happen, because the reality of it will strike you. And so, uh, well, you do it also in your life. You desire the good outcomes for yourself. You desire a good life for yourself, but in all these small ways you commit these sins which lead to exactly opposite. You waste your time doing nothing productive, but you do desire for something good in your life, right? And well, who is taking the consequences of what you did, right? Who is taking the blame on himself? Who is taking the punishment also? Because it's not only the wasted time, it's a wasted time that you could spend helping your mother, who sacrificed all her life for um, raising you, and raising you well and loving you, who sacrificed all her efforts doing that. And it is that time you spend which you could instead spend on uh, building in the better life for your family, including your mother who cared for you, and including perhaps your wife who deserves no less, and so this, and when you see it in these lenses, you understand that those are the sins, and they are no little sins, they are significant sins, and someone should pay for them. And it will be either your family, your mother, your wife, or it will be who? You too. Well, perhaps it will be just everyone paying for what you did. Everyone, including who surrounds you, will pay for your sins, because the life is not just about you. When you do something, it's also about everyone who surrounds you. And so, well, who's going to solve these problems? And that's what the story of Christ teaches us, that he who committed no sin took the consequences, the punishment, on himself. And he did it not out of how great people were around him, he did it because of his nature, which loved people. He did it out of love. And this exactly how his love has been manifested, has been showed and proven, that he not only gave up his life for everyone, he took on everyone's evil on himself, bearing the punishment. And so the cross reminds us of people's sin, right? And when Christ has been crucified, he bore the punishment that were meant for all the people, and he did it out of love. So he bore all those problems himself. And let's go deeper than that, because I think in yes, in Christian theology, something else happens too, is that Christ, uh, so Christ dies on the cross, so he actually gives up his life. The most important things a person can, well, actually possess is his life. Actually possess, right? And so he gives up, and it's not even like completely, it's not a complete possession too, if you think about it, but he gives up this valuable thing of relative possession, uh actually, and he dies. And so um then he goes to hell. That's how it goes, that's how the story goes. Then he goes to hell, but he goes there not being guilty of it, right? And so he goes down to hell. And what does he do? um so he takes the keys of hell. If I remember it rightly, he takes the keys of hell, and he wins over it. And what does it mean? Let's think about it. Well, I think it means that a perfect love is capable of overcoming evil, exactly because it's there is no sin in it and no guilt in it. And even when it dies, it is a testimony that lives through the generations. And then it's not only dies, it's never dies, it's reborn, because it lives on forever now. And because it's something that is so truly sacred, that is even important, much more important than death, and much more powerful and real than death, because it continues to live on when the body died. And so he takes the key of hell, because he did commit no sin. And by believing him now, and then so he takes the key, and I guess he joins God in eternity. And well, he is God too. So well, I think he's glorified in the throne. That's how the story goes. And um why? Well, because it seems that that what happens when you face all the hell is that even if you lose in a physical sense, in any physical sense, you still glory and triumph in all the spiritual and moral sense. And well, that's what happens with the story of Christ. And so, um, and so, right, what happens after that? Everyone who believes in me can have an eternal life. But what does it mean to believe in Christ? And this Christ himself also tells people, he says, if you want to follow me, oh wait, what does he say? He says, he says, take up your cross and follow me. Maybe even he said, everyone who believes in me should take up their cross and follow me. Um, but also check it for yourself. And then what would that mean? Well, take up the cross and follow me. It means do what I did. That the actual victory is a sacred victory, is that victory that we actually value the most. And it's the kind of victory that wins over evil by the just and loving manner. Uh, it's not a violence against violence, it's a love against violence. And well, guess what? Uh, you can suffer for that physically because it seems like you have no physical power over someone who is violent. But it means that you have another sort of power which is more powerful actually than a physical power because it's eternal power, and now you will never be forgotten because that what is truly important and sacred cannot be uh, forgotten, um, because it is exactly that gives which is the source for the meaning that we find within life, and the source of what helps us to strive forward and hopefully forward exactly that. And so um, it's a powerful message, the message of facing the hell, but through bringing in the heaven. And as the natural consequence of that, you can lose physically because you don't battle with the what violent methods. You don't battle against flesh and blood as things written in the Bible. You don't battle against flesh and blood. You don't battle against physical bodies. You don't kill, you don't destroy, but you battle the moral battle and you do what is right even if it costs you. And then if you do what is truly right and valuable and sacred, then you will live into eternity and you will be remembered, because whatever that is what you do the is what is the source of meaning itself. And whatever it is, it would be probably also connected with love, because well, that is the most sacred and valuable thing that we seem to cherish and regard as sacred, but the kind of love that is also holy, that